Howdy, I am Buster, your host, coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas. Welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. An epiphany, then a new vision. Let's get into this. In September 2023, as I mentioned in my last video, I had a spiritual experience that reshaped that. Anyway, I'm not going to delete this. I had a spiritual experience that reshaped the destiny of this channel. What hasn't reshaped it yet, but it will. The impetus was a April 2020 talk by Elder Del G. Renlund. Um, During the course of creating commentary for that talk, I came across a quote wherein he said, "When we operate outside a revelatory framework, no matter our brilliance, we can crash and burn." Now, I wasn't crashing and burning um, in producing the content that I was producing for this channel, which at the time was called Buster's World. Now it's called In Search of Lasting Joy, and I'll reveal the reason for that name change as I get further into this 6-video series. Um, but anyway, I was clearly frustrated. I was spending entire days and sometimes entire weeks trying to produce a single video. Now, I wasn't frustrated from the standpoint that of learning, because as I was doing deep dives into these talks and into these and creating commentaries, um, man, I was learning a lot. I was gaining a lot, and so it wasn't a complete loss. But I don't feel like the kind of videos or the kind of commentary that I was producing, that if I was someone that was watching that, I'd want to spend 45 minutes watching a video. And and I really wanted to produce videos that were more like in the range of 3 to 5 minutes. And so that's what I was shooting for. I wanted them to be brief, uplifting, Christ-centered. I wanted them um, to have a positive impact. And I didn't want to spend weeks producing because I have a lot of other things that I'm doing. I'm a grandfather of 12 grandkids. I've got a very active life with my wife. We go to the temple. We serve, as many people do, uh, callings, ministering assignments, and just lots of things that I wanted to do. And I wanted this to be a part of that journey, but I didn't want this to be the entirety of my journey. And so it was those types of frustrations that led me um, into into contemplation. Anyway, as I pondered my experience, my mind became clear. What I had been doing at the time is I had been every day what I want to talk about. Every day I would go through this process if I was going to produce a video. Well, what do I want to talk about today? And my mind might be prompted towards a talk that maybe Elder Nelson gave, or maybe a spiritual experience that I'd had in the past. And I would go through this process, and that would sort of initiate the creative process of researching and how am I going to do this. And so there was this very long process. But as I was contemplating my dilemma, my mind became very clear, and I could see in my mind's eye um, a collection of my life's history, journals that I had created, family stories that I had written, short stories that I had written, poetry that I had done, songs that I had written. I'm not a great musician, but I would had written songs with my guitar, and um, and so those types of things. I had a lot of history that I'd collected, and I had been involved in a lot of very interesting projects over time. And I could see all this history thousands and thousands of pages of content that I had collected over the course of my life. At that time, I was in my early 60s. I'm approaching my mid 60s now, and as I seen that, my mind became very clear that I needed to use this content that I'd already created. Now, in 2017, I had one project that I had that was coming to an end. Um, I thought it would be a permanent end, but it was just a temporary end. And then I had received a personal revelation that I needed to take the stories of my life and organize them into a personal story. My next two videos will be on those projects. One is called the Zion People Project, and the other one is called the Write Your Story Project. So I'd already had these things that I was working on and I was doing. Both of them were Christ-centered projects, and almost everything that I had within them were related to my walk and my talk with Christ over the course of my entire life. And so the content was perfect. The problem for me at the time when I had this epiphany was that I had never planned to share any of that material with anybody but my family. I had felt like it was private and it was sacred, and I felt like my family knew me the best and they would understand the stories the best because I was really writing my story to prepare it for them, and so that's where I was at mentally. Is that I had never planned to share this with anybody but my family. But it became clear in my mind that that was not what the plan. That was not the plan that the Lord had for much of that material. That He had wanted me to take of that very personal material and share how Christ had influenced my life. The brief, authentic messages that were Christ-centered that He wanted me to share were messages about how Christ had impacted upon my life and had been a part of my journey. And so he gave me a new vision for what I should be focusing on and going into the future. And for the last 18 months, that's what I've been involved with. I've been organizing that material. I've invested significantly more time into writing my story. I've revisited my previous project that I had shut down in 2017, the Zion People Project, and I felt impressed that I needed to add that to be a part of this, and that's what I've done. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful for Revelation. It has been a valuable resource to me over the course of my life. Um, my general tendency is that I'll receive revelation, and the Lord has provided me revelations to take the first two steps, and I start off on those steps. And I usually start off like with a full sprint, and I run past roadblocks. It's like the initial revelation is given to me to get me started, and then the Lord wants to walk along with me on that journey and continue to provide, continue to consult with Him. And all the other things I've previously done, that's what I've done is I've just sprinted, and sometimes I sprinted right off a cliff to to not quite to destruction, to death, but definitely to negative outcomes because I didn't continue to walk with Christ in that. I think there's a fine balance between receiving revelation, um, and do that we shouldn't be commended in all things, but that we should do many things of our own free will and choice. That concept of where you're doing it all on your own, the other concept of where you're doing all things, you can't take a step without Christ, that there's a balance that exists between those two of walking with Christ, doing much of our own free will and choice that is good, bringing forth much righteousness in the earth, but also keeping Christ involved in the process that he can continue to shape and guide and direct us. Over the last 18 months, I've slowed down a little bit. I wanted to fully understand this process that he wanted me to go through this time so that when I step back into it, I might be able to step back into it and find joy and satisfaction in the journey, something that I wasn't always getting in the way that I was doing it previously. I invite you to come along with me as I continue on this journey. If you've had similar experiences, similar to those things that I have discussed in the video today, I would love if you would share those things in the comment section of the video. I love reading how Christ is working in the lives of others. The reason I'm doing this channel is that you might be able to see how Christ has worked in my life. I don't see myself as anyone that's important, any more important than any other person. Um, but and so I consider myself a very average person, a person who's been involved in things that sometimes are out of the ordinary or spectacular, but largely just an ordinary person who loves Jesus Christ, has learned to rely and trust in Him. And I like to hear the stories of others who have made a similar commitment to Christ in their lives. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I thank you for stopping by. I hope to see you all down the road. Until then, y'all take care. Bye.